Good. My name is not important right now. I would like to give a couple of shout outs to Naim Kosher Pizza in Brooklyn, New York, Dave's Pizza in Lawrence, Traditions in Lawrence, and Florida, and Metman's Home Security Systems. Um, And today I am speaking with the one and only Joey Newcomb.
Yeah, Givaldi.
Um, where did you where did you grow up?
I grew up in Kew Garden Hills, Queens, New York, and I loved it over there. But you should know something interesting. Even though I grew up in Queens and Kew Garden Hills, I went to school in Far Rockaway, where I live right now. I went to school in Siach Yitzchak. Teire, Siach Yitzchak. So every day we had a good 45-minute drive across the Wick to get to Siach Yitzchak. So when people ask me, where'd you grow up? I say half Queens, half Far Rockaway.
Me too. I lived in Queens. I went to Dache.
No way.
Yeah.
Queens.
Um on Lafayette Boulevard.
So that's Kew Gardens.
Um not to yeah, to Gardens.
Very cool. Wow. So we had a similar upbringing. Okay.
Yeah. Where did you go for elementary school?
So elementary school, like I said, I went to Siach Yitzchak here in Far Rockaway, and we had
Yeah,
the carpool drive every single day. So most of my friends were here in Far Rockaway, and that's why I tell people I grew up half Far Rockaway, half Queens.
yeah. Where did you go for high school?
High school, that's a loaded question. So in ninth grade, I went to a place called Yeshiva Gadol of Bayonne. It might even still be around. That was 1 year in ninth grade. Then the next 3 years, I went to a place called Shari Arazim in Monsey. It's also still around. So it was two different places.
Wow. Um, where did you go for base matters, or did you go to college?
Not go to college. I went to base measures the first year, or first year and a quarter. I went to a place called Bridgeport, Connecticut. We had good times over there. And then after Elzman of the second year, so it was only a year and a quarter, I went to Israel. I went to Merkaz HaTorah, Merkaz HaTorah in Israel. And then after Merkaz for a couple of years, I went to Yerushalayim.
Yeah. Um, what did you do after base matters?
I was learning pretty stark those days. I was heavy involved in the learning. So when I came back to America to date, I went to a yeshiva. Back in the day, we called it Rabash Hawaii. We called it the main Maggid called Shara Torah. But it was in Muncie. It was a program for a lot of chevra that came back to America from the Mir Yeshiva and were dating. So I went there for a little bit until I got married, and then I was learning in Koilel.
Um, um, at what age did you start singing?
So that's an interesting question. I was singing my whole life, which means is that as a kid and even in yeshiva, when I was in yeshiva in Israel, I would down for the Yomid a lot. I played guitar. We had kumsitzes together. I always loved singing, but I'm assuming you mean like officially, like professionally. So
Mm,
that only started after I was married. I was learning in Koilel. I was actually very into Kiruv in those days, and somebody come to a certain Sheva brachas, and I brought my guitar and I played, and we had a good time. And then from there, it sort of took off. So it was really, let's say from today, it was really only about 5, 6 years ago that I first started officially singing at events.
Oh, I have a question, not on my. How did you come up with how are you? How are the gimmick? How are you? How are you?
Why over there? How are you? That is the truth
Yeah.
is that this is where when I have to think about it, where did that come from? My father, and if he sees this, he'll love to hear this. My father and my uncle spoke like that. They had a New York accent. They would always be like, "Hey, how you doing over there? How are you over there? How are you?" So like me and my sister, like we would make like jokes about it. How are you? How are you? Eventually, it became like a shtick that I would do. Like everywhere I would go to camp. How are you? How you doing over there? You know. And then I got so used to it that I almost started talking like that myself. But yeah, it started at home. It started if you would
Yeah.
meet my what that's where it comes from. And by him, he's not doing it. I'll stick. It's for real.
Yeah. Um, how many albums do you have out now?
Right now, I have three original albums. So three albums that have original songs, and then I put out a fourth album, which is more like a medley album for Purim, which is a mashup of all my songs from those three albums. So right now, I have officially three albums out, and I'm working on number four, as well as albums of a different style. So besides for album number four, I'm also working on albums of like my favorite songs from the '90s or my Rebbe's Nagunim or stuff like that. Different projects, but right now three officially and more in the works.
Oh, wow. Um, what is your favorite song of all your album?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a great question. My personal favorite song is a song that probably not too many people know. A few people know it because they gave me feedback on it and how it gave them chizik, but not too many people know this song. It's a song on my first album called Zemer, and it goes Shloisha Meshivim Gatoy Shelodon. It's a deep song. It was written about the concept of how the power of music can lift somebody out of the lowest places and bring them to the highest places. That's a favorite song of mine. Somebody actually told me they walked down a chuppah to that song. I was shocked to hear it because that song didn't become popular. People don't know it. But the people that do know it got a lot of chizik from it. But it's called Zemer on my first album.
Wow. Um, what do you do when you are not singing?
There's a lot of things. So a lot of time, believe it or not, is taken up with planning. Dealing with stuff, dealing with clients, dealing with different events, different the array, different content. Whatever needs to, all the phone calls and the messaging, or anything that needs to be taken care of besides for the actual singing. So that's besides for that the truth is that doesn't take much time. Most of the time, if I would flip the camera here, I'm going to try to flip the camera. I think flip the camera. Oh, right here. You ready for this? You
Yeah.
see?
Ah, you learn all day.
That's my little stender over here. So, one second. Let me flip it back. So, I have chavrusas and I have a Tanya chat that of daily Tanya, and I have different chavrusas, and I try to spend as much time as I possibly can learning. As much as
Yeah.
when I had more time, I was teaching in Terra Shimon, Rabbi Groner's yeshiva. But scheduling sort of got in the way of that. But whenever I do have free time, I try to spend as much time as I can learning, teaching, whatever. Yeah, you've got to steig Torah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Um, at what age did you start performing live?
At what age? Okay, so right now I'm 34. So I would say the first live performance I ever did was at a Sheva Brachas. It was about, let's say, 5, 6 years ago, I think. I don't know if it's more or less. Let's say 5, 6 years ago. So maybe longer. I would say when I was about 28 maybe, which was a bunch of years into my marriage, which means I got married. I was learning in kollel. I was teaching. I was doing kiruv, and only a bunch of years later, when I did that first event at a Shev Brachas, that's when the music thing started taking off. So probably at about 28, 29. That makes sense. Maybe 27. I don't remember exactly. I would have to look up the exact timeline.
Okay. Who did you get inspired by to start singing?
Who did I get inspired by? The,
Yeah.
the, the truth of the matter is that I can't really say anybody, meaning because it all happened. It all just happened, which means I never had a plan. There was never a plan in my mind to do this professionally. Again, I always sang, I always played guitar, I always had kumsitzes in yeshiva. But in my mind, I was learning in kollel. I was getting very involved in different kiruv and yanim and teaching and different stuff. So I was not really full plan ahead for singing. And then somebody saw me at one of our kollel events, and I played guitar and we sang. His name was Yitzi Gross. Big shout out to Yitzi Gross. And he saw that I could lead a kumsitz and I could sing. So he had asked. He told me that his father-in-law was making a Shabbat breakfast and he wants to pay me to come. I forgot what they paid me, but must have been paying me to sing. So I came and I found a little speaker somewhere. I found a microphone. I put some stuff together, and we had such a geschmacka time that the next night, this guy's who made the Shabbat breakfast, his friend called me and asked me if I would come. And then, like, word of mouth leads to word of mouth, which leads to word of mouth. And eventually I started playing at events. So it all just happened. But, like, I don't know if who was, like, my musical inspiration in life. Is that what you meant? Like, in general, who inspired me in music?
Yeah.
Oh, so the answer to that, growing up, there was always, there's two Rebbes in my life when it comes to music. And that's Journeys, which is A.B. Rottenberg, and Shlomo Kalbach. Those two is what I heard probably most of the time in my house growing up. And those two would be probably the biggest source of inspiration when it came to songwriting and singing and stuff like that.
Are you coming out with a new song or album?
Yes, there's a lot of different things in the work. There's an album number 4 of original songs that's coming out. There's a medley album of my the songs that I heard by Rebecca Meyer Morgenstern. There's an album of different Kumsitz medleys of my favorite stuff from the '90s. There's a lot of projects, a lot of songs, a lot of singles. The problem with me is that I'm always writing, and I'm such a fleugin guy that I end up with so many things, and then I have to figure out what to get finished and what to put out when. But there's a lot coming. There's a lot in the works. There's no question about it.
Do you have any funny stories that happened to you by a show or a wedding?
Oh, I'm sure plenty. I mean, if I had to come up with one off the top of my head, that's a good question. I'm just trying to think of what type of funny things happened at a show. Okay, I could probably come up with so many stories but I'm just gonna have to come up with what comes up off the top of my head. We once went to Morocco with a group of people. It was a whole tour group that went, and I was the hired musician on the trip to inspire, to sing, to be with the
Yeah,
island. And when we got to the border, everybody got through, but for some reason they wanted to bother me. They said, "What is that? A guitar here for? What is?" I said, "No, nothing. I'm just fabricating. I'm just playing. I'm just this and that." They took me into some room where they investigate people, and they had big like Moroccan cops around me. And there's like, what are you doing with a guitar? I don't know if they wanted to know if I'm here to work and make money, or like I don't know what was suspicious about me. Everybody else got through. Anyways, I said, let me show you what I'm here to do. I pulled out my guitar, and they looked at me like I'm crazy, and I started singing. La, 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 la. And they started dancing in the room, and they were no way. They had such a good time. Before you know, we had 3, 4 cops from Morocco dancing, going like this. But sometimes the power of music, you know what I'm saying? Here I am in the
yeah,
investigative. 4 Moroccan police surrounding me, investigating me, and before you know it, we're dancing, and before you know it, I'm through the border. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you have hit after hit after hit. How do you do it all?
That with me, when it comes to writing music, so it's a very different style. A lot of people have this talent where they're able to sit down and write a song, open up at the Tehillim, come up with nice words, come up with things, and write a song. By me, most of my songs were written in moments of inspiration. Something was going on. I was in a certain situation. There was certain inspiration that happened. And then I felt a certain concept, and I pulled out the guitar and I wrote the song. Most of my songs actually within 20 seconds, believe it or not. For example, Mika Amcha Yisrael, Mika Amcha Yisrael. So that song was written in literally 20 seconds in the Ramah Shul in Krakow.
Wow.
So when it comes to how do I do it? I rely on Siyata Dishmaya. If I'm in a certain matzav, I'm feeling a certain inspiration, and I have my guitar with me, I write the song, and if it takes off, it takes off. If it takes off, I never write with the mindset of like, "Ooh, this is a hit. That's not a hit." We hope for the best, you know. Maybe to runs the world.
Yeah. Um, do you have any um wisdom to share with the world? Any inspiring words to share with the world?
I mean, listen, we all go through different paths in life. We all go through different struggles and the Everybody is given a specific peckler. Everybody is given a specific puzzle, a specific ingredient or ingredient that they're meant to take and use those ingredients to create the most beautiful dish. And sometimes the ingredients seem strange. Sometimes
Yeah.
I was once on vacation with my family, and my wife likes to watch this thing, the Food Network. And on the Food Network, that's called Chopped.
Yeah, I heard of it.
For me, I'm not a big watcher in general, but we were on vacation and my wife likes. So I sat with the wife and we watched the show Chopped, and I'm watching it and I'm coming up with all these inspirational ideas, and she's like, "Can you leave me alone? I'm trying to watch a show." But this Chopped thing was a deep thing. It's a deep muscle because they open up the ingredients and they see things that shock them. The chopped meat makes sense. The gummy worms, like, what am I supposed to do with that? And I thought to myself, sometimes we come down to the world and we open up our pack of ingredients. And there's certain things that are nice and they make sense. Certain things like, what am I supposed to do with that? And the goal is that we have to realize that there's a whole Elam Haba waiting. All you got to do is take those ingredients and figure out the best dish. Whatever shock you, whether they don't shock you, everything you have is for a reason. Everything, Father, use it for the best. Create a dish that show up to the English and say, all these ingredients you gave me, create something beautiful with it. Live with that. That have is just part of the ingredients to make that dish. Make it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Um, thank you for letting me interview you, but I would like to talk to you afterward.
Okay, for sure.